Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday night Bible study. This is we're studying through John chapter 18, and this week we are finishing up the chapter with verses 33 to 40 to 40. 33 to 40. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just read through all those verses and then we'll pick up from there. Okay, John 18 verse 33. Then Pilate went back into his headquarters and called for Jesus to be brought to him. "Are you the king of the Jews?" he asked him. Jesus replied, "Is this your own question, or did others tell you about me?" "Am I a Jew?" Pilate retorted. "Your own people and their leading priests brought you to me for trial. Why? What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. If it were, my followers would fight to keep me from being handed over to the Jewish leaders. But my kingdom is not of this world." Pilate said, "So you are a king?" Jesus responded, "You say I am a king. Actually, I was born and came into the world to testify to the truth. All who love the truth recognize that what I say is true." "What is truth?" Pilate asked. Then he went out again to the people and told them, "He is not guilty of any crime. But you have a custom of asking me to release one prisoner each year at Passover. Would you like me to release this king of the Jews?" But they shouted back, "No, not this man. We want Barabbas." Barabbas was a revolutionary. So, going back to 33. So last week we left off talking about basically they brought Jesus was tried before Caiaphas. Tried, but there wasn't a real trial because they, under Roman law, they couldn't really do anything. So he was questioned by Caiaphas. He was questioned by Annas, Caiaphas' father-in-law. Then he was taken to the headquarters of the Roman governor, which was Pilate. And this is where they hand him over to Pilate, saying, you need to judge him because we want death penalty, and only the Romans are allowed to do the death, institute the death penalty. So then picking up there, now they're talking about what Pilate was going through with him. Then Pilate went back into his headquarters and called for Jesus to be brought to him. "Are you the king of the Jews?" he asked him. So this account is also given in Matthew and Mark, and they both report the same thing. That Pilate asks the same thing. "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Pilate is asking this because of what he's heard, obviously. Not because of what he knows, because he's not a Jew. So Jesus replied, "Is this your own question, or did others tell you about me?" So Jesus knows you're not asking this because you know, or because you know who I am, or care who I am, or even care to know if I am a king or not. You're just asking because basically you've been told to ask. So he's kind of getting deeper down, asking, do you really want to know? Like sometimes we ask questions, not because we really want to know. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know why we ask questions. Some people will ask a question almost like it's conversation, but not really seeking a true answer. So this seems what Pilate is doing. He's not really seeking a true answer. He's just running through the motions because he has to appease the Jewish leaders. So Jesus says, "Is this your own question, or did others tell you about me?" So are you running on hearsay, or are you running on actual knowledge and then trying to see if this knowledge is actually true or not? Or are you just going on hearsay, and that's how this whole line of questioning is coming about? Which then would mean the questioning isn't going to actually lead to anything conclusive for Pilate if he's just going off of hearsay. Then Pilate, verse 35 says, "Am I a Jew?" So he's acting like he's offended. Pilate retorted, "Your own people and their leading priests brought you to me for trial. Why? What have you done?" See, right then it reveals he has no idea what's going on here. So he has no idea. Like he says, he's not a Jew, so he has no idea what's going on there. And he's just saying, well, your people brought you to me. That's why this is happening. So tell me what you've done. But Jesus hasn't done anything. That's the thing. So Jesus hasn't done anything. He's standing trial for nothing. Because he's told the truth. Because he's brought conviction to people's hearts. And these people are hard-hearted. So once they feel conviction, they get upset. They're angry and upset and offended because they've been convicted. That's why the Jews are acting this way, why they've brought Jesus. And basically, the best way to get rid of conviction, if you're not willing to respond to the conviction and change, is to get rid of what convicts you. So they're going to kill Jesus. That's their point. They're running through these motions with the Roman governor because the Romans are the only ones allowed to give the death penalty, basically. So even in this retorts that Pilate's saying, he's distancing himself, as you can see here. Your people, your own people, and their leading priests brought you to me for trial. He's making a separation there from them. So then Jesus answers, my kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. If it were, my followers would fight to keep me from being handed over to Jewish leaders, but my kingdom is not of this world. It's an interesting answer to the question, why, what have you done? Why, what have you done? My kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. So Jesus doesn't even answer the question. He just speaks truth. He speaks truth. And the interesting thing is this. What Jesus is doing here is he's testifying to Pilate, not just of his kingdom, but of his deity. 1 Timothy chapter 6:13 says it, and I charge you before God, who gives life to all, and before Christ Jesus, who gave a good testimony before Pontius Pilate. That's what Paul is saying to Timothy. To be like Christ. Give a good testimony no matter who questions you. And Jesus is talking about his heavenly kingdom, his eternal kingdom. He says, my kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. Earthly kingdoms always come to an end. Even if they have fantastic rulers, those rulers eventually pass away or grow too old to be able to lead effectively. Right? So my kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. If it were, my followers would fight to keep me from being handed over to the Jewish leaders. But my kingdom is not of this world. So he's alluding to the fact that his kingdom is a heavenly kingdom. And in Daniel chapter 2, verse 44, it says, during the reigns of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed or conquered. It will crush all these kingdoms into nothingness, and it will stand forever. That's Jesus' kingdom. Daniel chapter 7, verse 14. He was given authority, honor, and sovereignty over all the nations of the world, so that people of every race and nation and language would obey him. His rule is eternal. It will never end. His kingdom will never be destroyed. So this is the kingdom Jesus is talking about. The kingdom that will destroy all other kingdoms and basically crush them into nothingness. His kingdom will stand forever. His kingdom will be eternal. His kingdom will never end or ever be destroyed. And every nation, every race, every language will fall under his rule. That's Jesus' kingdom. So he's spitting truth right now. And Pilate doesn't really understand truth. So Pilate said, so you are a king? Because he's considering Jesus' kingdom in earthly standards, right? If you have a kingdom, you are a king, right? So Jesus responds, you say I am a king. Actually, I was born and came into the world to testify to the truth. All who love the truth recognize that what I say is true. So Jesus basically is saying, I didn't come here to be a king. I'm already a ruler well above kings. I am a ruler that rules everything. You guys, basically humans, call me a king, but I am more than a king. He's not a king, but he's the king. The king of all kings, right? He's Lord and ruler of all. That's Jesus Christ. That's the truth. So in Matthew 5:17, it says, don't misunderstand why I have come. I did not come to abolish the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets. No, I came to accomplish their purpose. Matthew 20:28. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So what is the truth? So you are a king? You say I am a king. The truth here is that Jesus didn't come here to rule, to be an earthly king, to rule a kingdom. He already rules the world. everything that is made, John chapter 1 tells us, everything that was made wasn't made if it wasn't made through Jesus Christ, right? And the truth is this: Jesus came to earth to not to basically reestablish his kingdom, not an earthly kingdom, but in our hearts. Jesus, John chapter 14:6. Jesus told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. So Jesus has come to set up a kingdom that we don't really understand until we accept his salvation into our hearts. And then we start to understand what the kingdom of Jesus is talking about. And it's not talking about in a castle, on a throne, over people and peasants and this and that, having, walls or anything like that. It's a kingdom without walls, that he will rule everything and everyone. And in John chapter 10:27, he says here, all who love the truth recognize that what I say is true. And John 10:27 says this, my sheep listen to my voice. I know them and they follow me. Those that love Jesus know the truth, right? And they recognize that what Jesus says is true. To everyone else, it sounds like foolishness or craziness or whatever, but those that know Christ know that it is truth and it is true. So then Pilate comes back to him. What is truth? Pilate asked. Then he went out again to the people and told them, he is not guilty of any crime. Here's the crazy thing. Pilate asks a question, but he doesn't wait around for an answer. He doesn't actually want to know, and he actually doesn't care about what is truth. He doesn't care. Jesus already told him what the truth is. He doesn't care. He doesn't truly understand, and he doesn't really care. He doesn't want to know. And the reason I tell you that is this. Pilate goes out there and he says he's not guilty of any crime. But then what does he subsequently do? He hands him over to be killed. You just said the guy wasn't guilty. You don't care what the truth is. The truth is that Jesus Christ has done nothing worthy of punishment. But then Pilate, not caring about the truth, hands him over to be killed. Pilate doesn't care about the truth. John chapter 19, verses 4 and 6 says this. Pilate went outside again and said to the people, I'm going to bring him out to you now, but understand clearly that I find him not guilty. When they saw him, the leading priests and temple guards began shouting, Crucify him! Crucify him! Take him yourselves and crucify him, Pilate said. I find him not guilty. So he doesn't really care what the truth is. He doesn't care. He doesn't not just care what truth is. He doesn't care what is right. It's not right to condemn a person that's innocent. That's not right. That's actually evil. But Pilate doesn't care. So then he continues to blur lines all over the place. He has said that Jesus isn't guilty of any crime, but he still wants to appease. He wants to appease because he's more worried about himself than anything else. Verse 39, but you have a custom of asking me to release one prisoner each year at Passover. Would you like me to release this king of the Jews? And we all know. They shout back, no, not this man. We want Barabbas. And Pilate doesn't care. Luke chapter 23, verse 18 to 25 gives, part of this account. Then a mighty roar rose from the crowd, and with one voice they shouted, kill him and release Barabbas to us. It says Barabbas was in prison for taking part in an insurrection in Jerusalem against the government and for murder. Pilate argued with them because he wanted to release Jesus, but they kept shouting, crucify him, crucify him. For the third time he demanded, why? What crime has he committed? I have found no reason to sentence him to death. So I will have him flogged, and then I will release him. But the mob shouted louder and louder, demanding that Jesus be crucified, and their voices prevailed. So Pilate sentenced Jesus to die as they demanded. As they had requested, he released Barabbas, the man in prison for insurrection and murder. But he turned Jesus over to them to do as they wished. So Pilate, it seems like he kind of wants to do what's right. He doesn't want to get in trouble with Rome for condemning an innocent man. But it says there, their voices prevailed. So even though he was kind of leaning towards doing what was right, he wanted to release Jesus, in the end, he didn't do what was right. So his good intention meant nothing. I've heard the phrase, the road to hell is paved by good intentions. And that's how we are. We intend to do good, but we don't actually ever get around to doing it. Right? So if you actually believe in the truth and believe in doing what is right, it doesn't matter who is against you. You go do what is right. And you live by the truth. But that wasn't Pilate. So Pilate would rather give in to doing something that's wrong, which is releasing a murderer in place of an innocent man, than face the truth. But they shouted back, "No, not this man. We want Barabbas." Barabbas was a revolutionary. Acts chapter 3:14 says this, "You rejected this holy, righteous one and instead demanded the release of a murderer." So these people are so against the truth because the truth reveals who they really are. That's what the truth does to all of us. When we're faced with the truth, it reveals who we really are. We might feel bad about that, not the truth, but we feel bad about who we really are, and therefore we make one of two choices. We choose to respond to the truth and move forward and change the things that need to be changed and make the changes in our life or change those habits or, go towards moving away from the things that are wrong in our lives, or we react to it. We don't respond to it. We react to it and we come against it. And that's what these people were doing. The Pharisees, the temple guards, the religious leaders, they were reacting to the fact that the truth brought conviction in their life. It pointed out that they were not as holy as they were playing out to be. Which they knew, obviously. They knew this. But not, they didn't want to look bad in other people, in other people's eyes. So what they did is they plowed over, they basically buried the truth. They're bankrupt sinners. So instead of being shown to the public that they're bankrupt, they delve deeper into their sinful nature by demanding that a murderer be released instead of an innocent man. And that's what we do all the time. We deny the truth of Christ to continue living in our sin. We deny the truth of Christ to continue living in our sin. We're no better than them. It's the same thing. That's what I have for you tonight. If this convicts you, then hopefully you respond to it, and you don't cover over the truth so that you can continue living in wrong ways and sinful ways. It's time for us to start changing, to start drawing closer to the Lord. God bless you. Have a good night.